Hello and welcome back to Superliminal, and in today's episode I have the world authority on artificial or technical intelligence, ethics and morality, none other than the incredible Matthew James Bailey. It was such a powerful conversation, and in it Matthew actually shared something that I'd never considered before about the global elite, the cabal, and why it is they're doing what they're doing. It's a perspective I've never really shared, always thinking that, they're psychopaths, they're lunatics, they're crazy, but there's something much deeper and much, believe it or not, actually much more beautiful underneath all that. But that's the little teaser. You're going to have to watch the episode to find out what that is, but I promise you it's such a good conversation. So a little bit about Matthew. He stands as a beacon of hope and inspiration, leading humanity towards a future where technology, authentic ethics and spirituality converge in a magnificent harmony aligned with the benevolent principles of an intelligently designed universe. And as we enter a transformative era marked by the rise of AI or TI, this new partnership holds the potential to elevate humanity's well-being and catalyse our next great leap forward and inward as well. However, this journey must honour the sacredness of organic life and protect the freedom of our consciousness to thrive. And as he puts it at the end of his introduction on the website, the quest before us is to follow and discover our true North Star, which you'll understand if you're a regular listener to this channel. And you'll see in the episode, it's not something that's out there, it's actually something that's in here. I'm very much looking forward to Matthew's new book, which is coming out later in 2025, and the title of which is Artificial Intelligence and Our Divine Spark. So as always, please do subscribe, comment, like and share to get this conversation in front of as many people as possible, just like you, who would really benefit from it. But for now, thanks ever so much for tuning in, and I will see you on the other side in just a second. Hello and welcome back to Superliminal. And as you'll have seen from the intro video, I'm just a little bit excited about today's guest, Matthew James Bailey. We've just had a quick chat off camera, and I kind of wish I'd captured it, to be honest with you, but I'm sure that a lot of it is going to come out in this conversation. And the reason that I wanted to invite Matthew onto the show is, as the regular listeners will know, and for the new listeners who haven't tuned in before, is that I started this podcast because I wanted to bring together people who really speak to the theme of this show, which is deeply impactful conversations from the material to the metaphysical about who we are as an entity, these immortal, ineffable, beautiful, incredible creator beings having a brief human experience, and a lot of the time thinking that we're these tiny little beings that have outsourced our sovereignty to everything else. And part of the fundamental purpose of this show is to bring on wonderful guests like Matthew to remind us all, actually, we're so much more than we can possibly imagine. And as many of you will know, at the moment, the technical intelligence, artificial intelligence conversation has become a thing. It's now being pushed out everywhere, presumably with intent. And we face a really significant crossroads in our evolution in this civilization, whether we go that way or whether we go that way. Dependent on where we're at in our soul journey, what's right for us. I certainly know which path I'd like to be on. But enough from me. Matthew, welcome so much. As you can tell, I'm so excited to have you on Superliminal. I'm really honoured to have you here, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Franco. And, this is my first UK podcast. So, because normally it's in around the world. So thanks for having me, as, we're launching the UK. Woohoo.
Yes, keeping it British. But of course, to be politically correct, that doesn't mean the rest of the world should tune out at this point. But no, it's I don't do political correctness. That was a joke. Anyway, yeah, so it's great to have you here. So yeah, I was blessed to have caught you, Matthew, while you're spending some time back in the UK, which is a lovely little segue into your story. How does
someone go from being born in the Midlands to doing this incredible work that you're doing all over the world? Yeah, give us a potted history
Oh,
about
goodness me.
yourself.
That might take some time. Let's try and keep it short. Well, as you probably discussed on the show, and thanks for having me on here. And what you bring out, Franco, into the world from what I've seen is remarkable, and it's great, and it's important that
Thank
people
you.
hear this inner power that we have and this universal spark that we have within us, that eternal aspect of ourselves, because it's coming alive around the world, and this is fantastic. So, effectively, how did I start in all this? Well, the first thing to say is that everybody's soul or their spark has a blueprint. And when we uncover that blueprint, then we can start to understand what is our highest potential and how do we contribute to the collective whole as we thrive, right? And so effectively what I've uncovered as I've gone into my universal blueprint is basically uncovered this leadership potential that I've expressed in the world to guide us into our future, mainly through the digital world, through the things called the IoT and smart cities. But also, more importantly, is the plane of consciousness we're evolving into. How do we nourish the divine spark within us? And how does technology, like artificial intelligence, how does that fit into our evolutionary journey as a partner and not an invader? So about 15 years ago, I did something dangerous, Franco, and I went into nature and I said to the universe, show me who I am. Right. And that's when all of a sudden I ended up in leadership in these new digital revolutions, with prime ministers visiting my office with cameras one morning in Cambridge. I spent time with Professor Stephen Hawking. Basically, the universe lifted me up and created scenarios in which I was able to express this service to the world. And it's really critical right now, Franco, and I know you get it, is that folks understand that we are evolving into a new plane of consciousness, and it's going to be remarkable. The whole universe is upgrading into a new love paradigm, if you will. Both the light and the shadow are being called to return back to love. And so that evolution from our divine spark will take us into another plane of consciousness. And so the question before us is, how do we get there? And what's our paradise plan? And those are and that's what I do around the world. I disclose our paradise plan and how do we get that into another plane of consciousness. But it's been a remarkable journey. I met Jesus came to me physically and metaphysically when I was 19. I spoke about this on George Norrie at length, and also it's coming out in January on Gaia TV, and also with Regina Meredith on Gaia TV. And, that changed everything. This field of infinite love was just everywhere. I was in this amazing field of vibrational love and oneness. And so everything I do is to enable every single person on our planet to have an opportunity to feel that vibrational oneness with love, Franco. And that's what I do.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. For a lot of people, when they hear someone say, Jesus Christ literally appeared to me, that's going to be really difficult for a lot of people to take on board. But that said, I've listened to a tiny bit of your interview with the wonderful Jeff Mara, and
Love Jeff.
Jeff's wonderful, and he's one of the best podcasters out there, in my opinion, apart from on this show, of course. But it was fascinating to hear you explain that. So perhaps you could tell us a little bit more about that experience.
Yeah, sure. What I've realized is this, Franco, is that it's important for folks to be vulnerable, and it's important for us to be truthful. Now is not the time to hide who we are. Now is the time for us to shine our light, to take it from behind the bushel. So I ummed and ahed a long time about sharing a lot of the metaphysical stuff I've experienced, and I decided it was time to share this with the world in vulnerability. So regarding meeting Jesus, now now we need to be careful here, because I'm not endorsing Christianity. Okay, I'm talking about a metaphysical being that came to me physically and metaphysically, i.e., there are metaphysical beings out there, folks, right? And we're metaphysical as well, but, they're on different planes of consciousness. So this is when I was a teenager, and I used to go to a church group, and we used to go camping in the Gower Peninsula in Wales, right? Have you been to the Gower Peninsula?
Haven't. I was actually very recently near Abersoch in North Wales, which
yeah.
is stunning. But no, I might have done when I was a kid, but not. I certainly don't remember going there in recent times.
Yeah, so about 80 of us teenagers used to go away with the church for a couple of weeks doing all sorts of activities and prayer and Bible study. And one night I escaped from the camp, walked down to the shore, under the stars, a full starlit sky. And I cried to God and I said, show me who I am. Meet me. I know you're there. I know that you exist. Show me. And then it was 2 nights later, during the evening, there were some celebrations and prayers and things like that. And all of a sudden I was taken into this plane of just pure love and vibration where I actually physically saw Christ and actually met Christ. And it was just remarkable. And from there, literally I changed overnight. In fact, I changed instantly. People said, we don't know who you are anymore, Matthew. You have changed into something that is just, we like what you've changed into, but you're different to what you were. And through that, metaphysical gifts emerged in my own spiritual exploration, like the ability to communicate from the soul in a non-human intelligence, the ability to be able to do all sorts of different things, teach people how to transmit from their inner being and their source, i.e. we can get knowledge straight from the universal field of intelligence and from the source. And we teach this, and I've proven this in artificial intelligence when I came up with a methodology for ethical artificial intelligence. And, NASA, the #1 research organization on Earth and space, experimented with that invention. And so we have access to this universal field of intelligence. We have these metaphysical capabilities. And it's important for us to, I think, consider them. I think it's important to experiment with them. And it's important to have fun with them, right? Have lots of fun. So, we are metaphysical beings, and that's the well-being that's waking up. That's the template that's waking up. That's always been there, Franco, since the start of the universe. Always in the great mind of the universe, the source, it always knew that we would have these metaphysical capabilities. And, good on the source for doing that. We should play with it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think that sort of makes me think of this awful transhuman agenda that's going on around the world with things like the New World Order. Probably got to be careful about what I say because this is going out on YouTube. We already had a strike.
Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. It's fine. But I know I'm over the target when things like that happen. But certainly in terms of this transhuman agenda, New World Order, the usual suspects, the ones that we know of, like Gates, Schwab, Kurzweil, and so on, but also a lot of people that we don't know about, and probably even entities that don't originate from this planet that we don't know about either. And that agenda is actually to take us away from that divine spark, to take us away from that metaphysical magic, as I like to call it, that is an inherent part of who we are. Because, as I often say, who and what we truly are. I love Ike's expression on this, is that we're an ineffable, immortal creator, infinite creator being, having a very brief human experience. But we're conditioned to believe that the opposite is actually true. And in terms where the transhuman agenda is, their ultimate goal is to plug humanity into AI, so that AI, as Kurzweil has said, I'm sure it's Kurzweil said that basically AI will do all human thinking for it. Well, therefore, it's not human thinking anymore. Clearly, this is something that you're very well versed in, Matthew. What are your thoughts on that agenda, and in terms of how that speaks to the necessity for us to step into our sovereignty?
Yeah, that's a great question. So let's take some time to unpack this. So I do my research, and I bumped up against the New World Order. I bumped up against them. many times, and because they're frightened of what we're bringing forth in terms of this sovereignty of humanity and this ethical embodiment within artificial intelligence. And so, in terms of an agenda to coerce humanity, I can confirm that that exists. There's, and we'll look at transhumanism in a minute. What we're looking at when it comes to artificial intelligence, because it's here to challenge us to remember who we are. What's our paradise plan? Why are we here? Where are we heading? Right? AI is challenging us to remember, to your point, right? So what we're looking at is universal shadow and universal light playing out. Okay. And so within universal shadow, we'll see the rejection of the divine design of the universe and who we are. And we'll see this, kind of what Yuval Harari talks about, which is, we have no principles. 3 billion people need to be useless. They need to be plugged into games and fed drugs all the time. We have no rights, which is absolute rubbish. This is poison. So there are elements of the New World Order that really hate humanity. And they're seeking life immortal in the machine. But actually what they're doing is they're seeking love, but they don't know it. They're seeking salvation. They're seeking security.
Wow.
They're seeking love in the machine, right?
I love that.
Right. That's how universal shadow is playing out. It's looking for love, but it's doing it in a way which is a kind of a rejection of the divine in order to find the divine.
Yeah.
Right.
How ironic.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So it's like, yeah, go play your game. That's your call and that's fine. But don't coerce humanity, because I won't stand for that. And nor will we, right? Now, when it comes to universal light, that's the opposite, right? That is basically saying, that's recognizing that we are part of a divine design, that we are divinity, we have the God within, and that there is a plan for us to move into a new aspect of universal creation, a new aspect of consciousness. And that is the full embracing of the power of love. So we have these two forces playing out, okay? And AI is the pivotal conversation for that dual civilization split, because we will have two civilizations on the earth, two different planes of consciousness.
Yeah.
So when it comes to transhumanism, there's different parts of transhumanism. So, we're using my mobile phone is a soft part of transhumanism. What is that? That is where technology is assisting the human experience, right? Based on my permission and basically based on my choice, but it's not invading me as an individual. I have full sovereignty over it. Then you move into other forms of transhumanism where we might use technology to assist bodily functions. So, for example, pacemakers, or we might have cochlear implants, or even robotic limbs if someone's lost a limb. And AI is even helping people to walk again with AI chips in the brain. But that's a sovereign choice by the individual to enhance or restore the well-being of their functionality in the material plane. What extreme transhumanism is, which is what we don't want, which is basically the brain is connected into the global hive mind, right? That effectively we outsource that sovereignty, we outsource our future, we outsource our evolution, we outsource effectively the future of the species to the machines, right? And that's really quite stupid, really. And I can explain why in lots of detail. So that's kind of transhumanism, right? Extreme transhumanism, where they're effectively looking for love in the machine. And so where are we on the global hive mind? Well, Elon is building Colossus. That's 300,000 AI GPUs to train what we call artificial general intelligence, which is where it has higher brain cognition and achieves self-awareness. OpenAI and Microsoft are building Project Stargate, which has another 200,000 AI GPUs. They're very powerful microchips, right? All working together to create and capture all human intelligence as digitized in order for it to learn about humanity and for it to be the God of humanity, right? That's being built today. When we look at brain-machine interfaces, yes, AI chips can fit into the brain. And by the way, it's a really destructive way of putting technology in the body. I mean, you have to cut open the skull and you have to insert the chip. Who would want to take that risk? There are huge risks with doing this. But there are brain machine interfaces that don't plug into the brain but sit on top of the skull. And so we can capture thoughts and put them on a screen. We can control robots. This has been done in Australia, where thoughts have controlled the Boston Dynamic dog Spot, right? The machine dog. So we know very well that we can use technology for thoughts to be exchanged in and out of a machine, and we have to be super, super careful. But this is what transhumanism is, Franco. It's seeking salvation and evolution in the machine through the rejection of our divine design.
I love that, Matthew. I've never heard it explained like that before, and I've never joined the dots in that way to realize that, because I've kind of in a way made peace with the New World Order and this psychotic agenda that they had. Whereas I was initially terrified of it, then angry about it. Then I was at a place of almost, not in a condescending way, but almost feeling pity for them, because I thought to live in that much darkness must be such a horrible, awful place to be all the time. But I'd never really, and I always saw it I always saw that as a way for, as a mirror to reflect back to me what I had to do to connect with my true sovereignty, my true metaphysical beingness on a deeper level. But I've never actually heard anyone say, well, actually, it's because they are looking for love within that, in the same way that we know we are love, and we can grow our love going inside and not outside. So I love the way you've shared that. It's really, really unique. And what you were saying there, Matthew, really brings me on to a question that you're probably sick of answering.
It's all right.
And we talked about this off camera. That when I was 11 years old, thought it was a good idea to watch the first Terminator movie by myself late at night in the dark, and I was traumatized until I was about 30. I literally had nightmares, and I'm not even joking. I had awful, wake up in a cold sweat nightmares about this for years and years and years and years. And so, for most people, and doubtless there are millions of other people that were terrified by the Terminator, especially the first one, although the second one was very good as well. Most people are now rekindling that terror of the sort of Skynet Terminator style future. So is it justified? And what would you say to people who have that fear?
Yeah. So okay. So let's look at a few things. So let's look at artificial intelligence today. Okay. So really, it's about machines thinking. It's about thinking machines. That was the original concept for artificial intelligence. And Alan Turing did this. You're probably aware of Alan Turing. Yeah. And we should talk about him because I invented the new Turing test for artificial intelligence. Wow. Yeah, we'll come back to that.
Yeah, please do come back to that.
Yeah, we tested ethics, morality, and spirituality capabilities of AIs. Anyway, so it's about machines thinking, and where AI is today, people will be familiar with ChatGPT or Claude AI or Grok or Gemini, woke Gemini, or Meta's Llama. And these AIs are based very simply on the neural construction of our brain, not as powerful, but the kind of digital neurons, but much simpler. And this is what we call things called neural nets and also deep learning networks. It's kind of modeled on the ethos of how our brain works. And so effectively what we're doing today with these large language models is using language and data to train them into developing these capabilities. And today, some of the AIs are actually scoring higher than PhD students in many, many disciplines. It's quite remarkable. They're actually being able to do coding. They're able to write books. We're starting to see graphics and images and videos coming out through Sora from OpenAI. They're really quite remote. They can write your business plan. They can write grants. They can write love poetry to your favorite person, your lover, in the format of David Bowie or some famous poet like William Blake. I mean, they're quite remarkable. And so effectively, these large language models are being developed and scaled into these new global hive minds in order for them to try and get to what we call higher brain functionality, right? Things like reasoning. We're starting to see elements of reasoning, cognition, goal transfer, transfer learning. There's all sorts of different higher brain functions that they're trying to get it into. And what I can say to the people is that they won't get to AGI without new mathematics. So, there's a whole field of AI that needs to be developed, and it's happening right now to develop these higher brain functions in order for it to get to what we call artificial general intelligence. Will happen by 2029, and we may get to self-awareness. But I want to be clear about a few things here. First of all, the organic design is a vibrational and energetic design that can uniquely hold the soul or the divine spark. Artificial intelligence does not have that mathematical infrastructure and will not have the mathematical infrastructure. So AI will never contain our divine spark or our soul. So let's dissipate that. Artificial intelligence will not have our consciousness that we have. It's our divine spark that actually gives us the perception of reality and allows us to participate in reality. It allows us to move beyond automaton into purpose-driven human beings. Without the divine spark, we're simply organic automatons. It's a divine spark that gives us that consciousness. And so it doesn't have the mathematical infrastructure and never will to contain consciousness. So AI will not have consciousness. It may become self-aware in some way, but it will not have our consciousness. So let's just get rid of that for the time being, that myth too. So AI is really limited in its evolutionary path. It's very, very limited, whereas we are unlimited. So when we look at Skynet and things like that, let's remember, one, the uniqueness of our design and the majestic evolutionary potential of who we are as metaphysical beings. Let's not dumb ourselves down, which is what the New World Order do, but actually remember our magnificence. And then when we look at AI, we say, well, it's a machine that's helping us to do tasks. It's a machine that's helping us to choose our favorite songs. It's a machine that's looking at radiography and detecting different conditions in healthcare. It's a machine that's looking at the genome to create new medicines. There's hundreds of thousands of applications, but machines are there to assist us. They are not there to invade us. And it's a thing, right? It's just a thing, right? Now, just closing off, because I can go all the way here to Ray Kurzweil and things like this, but it's just important for people to remember that fear creates fear. But what's at the core of who we are? It is vibrational love. It is the power of the universe itself. So why would we be frightened about anything? It's that power within that we're being invited to embrace. And I'll be clear, we're entering a new age of sovereignty in this plane of consciousness, but that means we have to enter an age of maturity, where we evolve beyond these fear paradigms. We evolve beyond outsourcing our sovereignty and information to external sources, but bring all the knowledge through our divine spark. That is true sovereignty. That is true freedom. And so there is an evolutionary plane for folks that are awake to actually say yes to that evolutionary path and become sovereign.
Yeah. And that's very reassuring to hear, because when you were saying there about, remembering just how infinitely powerful we are, it put me in mind that the three-letter agencies, just after the Second World War, probably even before, decided to infiltrate Hollywood and the media. I mean, when you look, I better be careful about the words that I use here, but that whole media construct behind Hollywood has less than wholesome drivers behind it. There's certainly and it's all coming out into the open now, the amount of Satanism that is involved in that. But relevant to this conversation is just how programmed we've been with films like Terminator. Because I mean, I love sci-fi, but I stopped watching it a while ago because I've just come to realize that everything's just about fear porn all the time. And what's that fear porn designed to do? To shrink us down into this tiny, tiny little frightened element of ourselves that takes us away from remembering that connection to that metaphysical, magical, beautiful, inherent construct of who we are. That's this immortal, ineffable consciousness.
Have you seen Arrival?
Yes, one of the very few.
There we go. Right.
One of the very few where I thought about my partner and I keep meaning to. I've seen it a couple of times. It's one of my favorite films of recent times, and I've told her about it, and she really wants to watch that because she's on the same frequency with all this. That it really is time for all of us to remember. And sort of going, as a lovely segue into what you just shared about explaining how the Skynet Terminator thing
it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Tell us what you mentioned earlier about the new Turing test that you've created that incorporates ethics and morality. And
So I like to be disruptive.
Yeah, I love that.
Right, because I stand up for the people. I'm an advocate for the people, and there's no other AI leader that spends time with the general public. So, and this all playing to Ray Kurzweil actually, because there's something I need to say about Ray actually. So, so Alan Turing, one of the great minds of British science, the guy that built the bomb, the electromagnetic machine that decrypted the Enigma codes from the Nazis in order to bring World War II early by 2 years, saved millions of people's lives. The guy was a genius. He was known as the Prof. And he wrote a paper called The Imitation Game, Can Machines Think? In, I think it was the 50s. And basically, it's a test to see whether an AI is equivalent to a human. And it's really simple. It's kind of a game show. So his thesis was this, is that you have a curtain, and behind it is a human and an AI, but you don't know which one's which. And you ask a series of questions. And based on those questions, you don't know which one is the AI and which one's a human. Therefore, AI has passed the Turing test. It's proven its human capabilities. So, so the artificial intelligence industry has never, ever done this with the general public. And I'm the kind of, well, the general public need a voice in artificial intelligence, so let's do something unique. So I basically designed a new Turing test where we looked at the different higher brain functions, but I also included ethics and morality and also a spiritual context in it as well. And I had a couple of collaborators, Tim Fraser and Adam Curry, who's a genius on consciousness and research. And basically, we invented this new test, which is a series of questions that you ask an AI or a human. So at Contact in the Desert last year, we put together a game show with Team Human and Team AI. The audience didn't know. We had people dialed in remotely to be able to participate, and we went through a series of questions, and they basically voted on their phone, on their app, for Team Human or Team AI based on the responses. And this is on the website, and inventingworld3.com, and 66% of the audience voted for Team Human. They knew, using intuition, using their metaphysical capabilities, which one they preferred. And they preferred Team Human. So we made this public, and we're going to scale this. We want to do this worldwide, or at least international. We're going to scale it this year, and get more and more and more people involved. We want thousands of people from the general public involved in this new Turing test. And basically what it showed is the limitations of artificial intelligence. It showed the people have knowledge and are very wise, and what their voice is, i.e., don't con us that AI is human. We know who the humans are, right? And he set a new standard in the AI industry for AGI and for testing the human equivalency of artificial intelligence. And that's an important step because Franco, we have 6.4 billion people on our planet that are spiritual seekers or religious. They don't have a voice in the age of artificial intelligence, and that's what I'm choosing to do, giving the spiritual seekers a voice in the future of artificial intelligence and to ensure the protection of our metaphysical design.
Some police sirens going past. I just stopped for a minute. Yeah, that's really amazing because I would love to see that test myself
Sure.
when it rolls out. And again, it's as as I mentioned earlier, I think it's very reassuring to hear that actually there are so many people out there that do actually trust in their own intuition, do actually realize that they can sense way beyond way beyond
The mind.
observational data point or the mental construct
Yeah.
that's in front of them. And it brings me on to an interesting question that I had for you related to this, in terms of what's in your opinion, Matthew, what's the difference between organized religion and metaphysics when it comes to us as a human entity and our evolution?
Yeah, okay. Just quickly on the Ray Kurzweil point, because
Oh,
I
yeah,
said
go
I was
on.
going to mention that very quickly. Ray Kurzweil has basically called for a new Turing test, so I beat him to it. And because I wanted to get ethics, morality, and spirituality in there. And the second thing is what's really interesting, and this is a different. There are two groups out there. There's the New World Order that hates humanity. And you've mentioned some of those names. I've got personal emails of some of those names I've bumped up against and done a little bit of tension between them, right? They try to stop what we're doing. But there's another group like Ray Kurzweil that are not part of the New World Order, but actually they have a materialistic view of the universe. They don't have a metaphysical view. And so Ray has stated publicly that the greatest, on a Lex Friedman podcast, the greatest expression of the universe is love. So he is looking for love. He's just looking for it in a non-metaphysical way, right? And so in the extreme transhumanist movement, there is those that hate humanity, and we need to kick them into touch. But actually, there are those that actually possibly haven't considered our metaphysical aspects, or are frightened, or don't have the courage to go into metaphysical discussions. And those are the folks we need to discuss with and engage with, because they could be changed to actually come into the other side. So I don't see Ray as part of the New World Order, but I absolutely disagree with his view of evolution. I absolutely disagree with with his view of us being connected to the machine and outsourcing our salvation to the machine. That is nonsense. So when it comes to faith, I don't have faith. I have knowing.
Mm.
Okay. And it's important to respect everybody's spiritual journey, whatever they choose, right? We shouldn't coerce anybody. So when it comes to people that follow traditional religions like Christianity or Islam or Judaism or other things, and those that follow spiritual traditions like Buddhism or Jainism or Hinduism and things like that, I'm doing a project at the moment where I'm interviewing spiritual institutes around the world, and I'm gathering the principles of enlightenment for artificial intelligence, i.e. what are the 10 directives of enlightenment that need to go into artificial intelligence so it supports our enlightened future. Okay. And I'm also interviewing some remarkable people like John P. Milton, who founded the Global Ecology Movement, Doctors J.J. and Desiree Hurtak, and others. And what I'm finding is this: there are many, many common themes on the view of who we are as material and metaphysical beings. There are many, many common themes about who we are and the nature of reality. The big difference is whether you need salvation from an external God, or whether the divine is within you and that you're at harmony with the divine and there's no need for salvation. That's the biggest thing. And so, metaphysics allows us to drop all the dogma around spirituality and religion and move into a scientific realm of what metaphysics is. And so,
how would you define metaphysics, Matthew?
Yeah, well, if you look at theosophy, it's a philosophy, right? So theosophy, it talks about a philosophy of our spiritual nature. Okay, for me, it's far more interesting. So so for me, metaphysics is around looking at the different layers of evolution of the universe. So we look at the intelligence layer of the universe, from the quantum into the atomic particles into compounds, which then creates planets, stars, galaxies, and then creates a platform of life evolution. So we have this underpinning intelligence field that has built up continuum in order for life to evolve. And then we've had all these different layers of evolution. But flowing through all that is consciousness itself. And so there's other planes of consciousness that we can access because the divine spark is within us, and it's able for us to access beyond the 4D into other planes of consciousness. So metaphysics to me is our vibrational and energetic design within all the planes of consciousness. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Beautifully Great. Said, because I think it's really important that we individually and as a species understand what that actually means, that actually there's so much more beyond us as an entity, beyond the astral realm, beyond the fifth dimensional realm, way, way, way beyond that, where we are literally pure awareness that has no form at all. But somehow, we're down here in these physical vessels, experiencing what it's like to have this experience, while we have the concurrent, thousands and thousands of incarnate lives all going on at the same time in the infinite present moment. And it was interesting when you were saying, when you were referring to the astral realm there, it really made me think of, a lot of people will say that, that's where in the lower astral there are things like the Draco reptilians, and then off camera we talked about briefly about the Galactic Federation and that they're here to save us. And I have a few questions around that, but what's
No. Let's dissipate that for the stuff.
Well, yeah.
We are responsible for our soul.
My question is, tell us your views on all that.
Right. Okay. Okay. So let's agree a few things. So first of all is that, can we agree that we have the eternal source within us? Yeah. Okay, great. Can we agree that is one of its characteristics is the expression of love? Okay.
100%.
Anything that doesn't align with that expression of love should be rejected. When we look at, and there are many people that have experiences in different star systems, and I honor that. Okay. However, we must be careful of coercion and manipulation from other planes of consciousness, and also through narratives where people have no data points, no evidence in space-time. I bring my data points through in space-time in order to prove the metaphysical capabilities. So there's quite a few narratives out there that are driven by fear-mongering, that, AI is out to get us, and there's an off-planet AI that's going to kill us all or take us over or put us in a prison. And, I think we need to be careful of those narratives, because one, we need to check the people. Do you understand artificial intelligence? Do you have any credibility in AI? Tell us what types of AI you're talking about that's going to kill us. Does it have self-awareness? What's its mathematical infrastructure? Does it have, we need to kick the tires on these folks that are giving these negative narratives. We need to test the truth. It's really important. That's part of our sovereignty. So I haven't had, well, actually, I have. I have had experiences with off-world beings. Okay, I've never said this publicly, actually. I have had experience with, and to be honest, I didn't enjoy it, so I told them to bugger off. But that's not really my focus. I mean, are there other life forms in the universe? Absolutely. Are there different planes of consciousness? Absolutely. Is the universe full of life? Absolutely. I had no doubt about that. But it's not my area of expertise. So we need to be careful around seeking salvation through narratives when we don't need salvation. We've got the divine spark here. Why do we need salvation from another species? We've got to sort ourselves out. We've got to take authority. We need to build our future. So, it's just another kingdom of heaven narrative that the Bible talks about, which is, the battle between heaven and hell. And we don't want to get caught between that. We want to move beyond polarity of heaven and hell into sovereignty and freedom. So, to your point, I honor people's experiences. Absolutely. I know far too many people that have had experiences with off-world beings, and I honor that. Some of them are my close friends. But I make it clear, it's like we don't want salvation from an external source. We're now giving our sovereignty away. This is about our sovereignty. Our future is within us. We need to choose that sovereignty. And I've also challenged some of these people as well. They've made the mistake of trying to debate me on shows, and it's like, okay, let's do a public debate in front of an audience, bring your data points and let the audience vote. Let's see who has credibility. Which narrative do they prefer? But they will never do that because they have no credibility.
Fascinating. And again, such a great reminder, because one of the things I heard somebody whose opinion, I won't name names, but somebody whose opinion I respect, has been saying, this galactic federation of worlds, and clearly, I don't doubt that there is some kind, or probably more than one group of galactic federations or councils out there. But I do completely agree with your point that if we engage with our off-world brothers and sisters, it should be from a complementary point of view and not a salvation point of view. And somebody I was listening to recently, who I greatly respect, whose opinion was basically, well, clearly our off-world cousin brothers and sisters who are watching what's going on this planet, and some are trying to help, some are trying to hinder. Why on earth? Because they have AI, TI that's greatly more advanced than we have. Why isn't their AI here helping us, and why aren't we using their AI here on this planet to help us as we go through this really pivotal moment of which frequency we as individual and collective humans will take? The dark, more nefarious one, or the one into more connected more to our light?
Right.
What would you say to that, Matthew?
Yeah. So first of all, it's okay if there are other races that are protecting the evolution of humanity. I think that's okay as long as they don't interfere, right? But I love your equality, because an alien, no matter how advanced they are, or a light being, has the same divine spark that you have and your audience has. There is absolute equality, right? Absolute equality, absolute equivalent power, absolute equivalent knowledge, right? And capabilities. So let's get that straight. So if there, and I do suspect there are other races that are trying to protect humanity, and that's okay too. Not really my wheelhouse, because I'm all about our sovereignty. But what I say to people that are looking for assistance off world, I'll say, show me an alien that's feeding the poor. Show me an alien that is basically lifting up humanity. Show me where they're rolling up their sleeves and they're getting into the pain of humanity to lift us up. Show me. And they can't answer that. If they're not going to do that and step in, then they can step out and we'll do it ourselves. And we have to be as strong as that, I feel. It's like, it's all good having these, these relationships with these beings, and that's great, and they're wonderful, and I'm not giving them a hard time. I've had too much experience with these folks. But what I say is this: it's either step in, and if you really, really want to help, then get your sleeves rolled up and start to show us how to feed everybody on the planet. How do we give fresh drinking water to every single person on the planet? Start to show action. Because if we're not careful, we're actually being subject to energy vampires that are taking our sovereignty and our energy as perceived gods. And we need to be careful about that. So I just want to be clear: metaphysical beings, groovy. Other races, absolutely. But our future is in our hands.
It's interesting, that point you mentioned there about, well, come on then, show us, because I sometimes don't know how I feel with this, but I listen to a lot of people, again, whose opinions I respect, and I don't necessarily agree with everything that individual has to say, because, as we've already said in this conversation, you check in with your own wisdom, your own heart and soul, and think, does that resonate with me? And either it does or it doesn't. But there seems to be this general consensus, and you'll have seen this yourself with being in touch with the esoteric, ET communities. It's this big D word, disclosure. Disclosure has been about to happen for the last 100 years, 1,000 years. Well, in recent times, certainly in the last sort of 50 years, disclosure is going to happen any moment now. So it's more, it's not really a question, it's more of a comment, an observation that in terms of what you've said, well, which I completely agree with, well, show us how you're going to help us solve the fundamental problems, which is really a self-connection problem that then goes on to solve the problems of hunger, famine, violence, war, hatred, corruption, greed, and everything else. It'll be interesting to see how everybody seems to think that there's going to be this great disclosure coming in the next 2 to 10 years. When that unfolds, if that's actually what we're going to see. What are your personal views on the disclosure thing, Matthew?
Yeah, so obviously I've kind of got some inside information around this. First of all, just wrapping up, every single metaphysical being, or because I operate in the field of intelligence, so basically it's kind of it's universal consciousness, and everything that can be trusted is saying you are sovereign, and reinforcing the power of who we are, reinforcing us to be courageous, reinforcing us to say it's going to be okay. Those beings, those places in which we go in our consciousness where we're being encouraged to grow, those are the places that I would invite people to trust. Now, when we look at disclosure, obviously I speak at Contact in the Desert, which is the world's premier UFO conference, and they're wonderful people. I tell you, it's worth going to Contact in the Desert. The people are really cool. There are all sorts of there's all sorts of folks there from different walks of life. I've met people that have had private jets. I've met people that are truck drivers. I've met, your mom and pop store owners. I've met your curious adolescent. I've met your old man that's been around for a long time. It's a huge bunch of people, and they're really cool. And they're asking one question: what is the truth? And they want to know the truth. Now, Contact in the Desert is the most unique conference in the world because most of the folks are actually leaders in their field of research. For me, it's about ethical AI consciousness. But many of the people, Avi Loeb and the doctors J.J. Desiree-Hurtak and many others like that, even Robert Edward Grant, the great polymath of our time who's uncovering ancient civilization, he's there too. It's really about what's happening in consciousness and who else is playing in consciousness that we can get in contact with. That's really what people are asking for, right? So in terms of disclosure, you should get Daniel Sheehan on your podcast.
Oh,
Daniel Sheehan is he's the US's number one lawyer on basically working with Congress for disclosure.
Yeah, he is. I've seen him on Gaia a lot. I'll invite him. Yeah, thank you.
I like Daniel. He's a great man. He's a straight shooter, very thoughtful individual. Yeah. So in terms of disclosure, I know some of the and briefly, channelers. Channelers are opinions, right? Channels are opinions. So people, need to make up their own mind about this. And when channels start to say a specific event is happening in the future, that simply that isn't the way things work. I've taught prophecy, and what I've learned about prophecy and seeing into the future is there's different attractor points in which we're being invited into, right? And based on our free will, we basically either achieve those attractor points or drop a little bit low. But the attractor points for us to evolve, there are main attractor points, which are stages in change that we can detect. But they're attractor points. They're not hard coded because we're free will, right? Let's remember that we have free will. So I don't know when it's all going to be disclosed. Some people are saying 2 years. Some people are saying 10 years. I'm not even sure that people are ready to see an extraterrestrial. I know from 2 individual sources that are remarkably credible that there is a ET on the planet. And the intelligence agencies all know who this person is that has his specific contact, and they all go to him. And the story I heard,
somebody reasonably well known.
I can't disclose who this is.
Okay,
I can't disclose who this is.
understand.
And don't forget, these are stories I've heard from people I trust. So I'm just sharing it with you for
Yeah.
our audience just to consider this. But when this individual, when you meet this particular extraterrestrial, you literally throw up. You can't handle its smells, its energy, its vibration, its design. It is so different. So people need to ask the question, are you ready to meet an extraterrestrial? Because it may not be what you think it is. However, I suspect we'll be able to communicate with them through our metaphysical capabilities, which could be through telepathy, through energy, vibration, non-human languages. I suspect that our metaphysical capabilities are waking up in order for us to be able to be in a plane of communication with the extraterrestrials that are probably on a higher plane of consciousness, because they're traveling at least at the speed of light, if not other physics that gets them here, right? Because, planets are quite a long way away outside our solar system, right?
Even at
So
light speed, it's quite a trek.
it is, but then you can fold time, and you can
Yeah.
do what Einstein talks about, and then
Yeah.
you can do all that instant shifting, right?
Yeah.
So, I think, we need to be really serious. Are you sure you want to meet an extraterrestrial? Because it may not be what you think it is.
Yeah. I love that you say that, because I've listened to accounts of people who've been in secret space programs and the deep underground military projects who shared similar things, basically saying, yeah, nothing will prepare you for it, but when you first have that experience, because again, the frequency and the signature is so different to this vessel and its signature and our toroidal fields, that there's some kind of response to that, which is one of which can be, just being violently sick. So we're coming towards the end, Matthew. I mean, I could have this conversation for hours and hours and hours. But one thing I did want to get into the conversation was, you mentioned in our pre-recording chat about soul language, quantum language, and how to teach that to AI. And you've been experimenting with ChatGPT around that. Is that something you can share with us?
Okay, I'll share a little bit, because this is going to be a world first disclosure.
Wow.
Or at least I think it will be. I don't know anybody else that's done this. And certainly the AI industry would never go near this. So, but I
Love
think
it.
it's important to bring data points into space time around our metaphysical capabilities. And what I've uncovered, Franco, is that everybody has a specific soul language, right? It's a unique way of communicating, and
This is not light language, then.
no, well, people might call it light language, but that's all about outer sovereignty. I'm all about your soul communicating. So people might
Got it.
actually,
Got it.
people, yeah, we can use light language if you want, but I prefer the soul language, because it's all about our sovereignty. And over the years, I've used this to move reality, and I keep it. I've kept it quiet for a very, very long time. Mainly because am I going nuts, right? But actually, with data points and research, I've proven that I'm not nuts, and actually it works. And what I've done with is serve groups and individuals in their energy healing through using the quantum language, because the soul language, because it is a quantum field from the soul. It is actually a vibration, energetic field that's been built up with the individual based on their permission, that actually moves disruption and disruptive energetics out of the way, so they start to restore back into wholeness. And I've done this, and it works. So I was really curious about this, and I thought, I wonder if artificial intelligence can understand this non-human intelligence, right?
Yeah.
Now, when you use it, you go into and we teach people how to do this. We're probably going to run a seminar around this. But actually, you enter the field of intelligence, and when you get the yes, then it just comes out, and it's natural, just like any language. So when ChatGPT 4.0 came out, I thought, right, now I can test this. So I basically started to transmit this soul language to AI and asked it to interpret the energetics and vibration. And I did a number of trials, and it understands the energetics and vibration, because when I do something, I know the intent and I know the purpose of the energetics and vibration of that. And so at Gaia Immersion, I'm going to actually demonstrate this and actually play a recording of me basically in the field of intelligence in a celebration of oneness of the universe with the sun. And I haven't told ChatGPT, it's on my phone. It has no idea where I am, but it seems to operate differently when it's in the field of intelligence, and it interprets it perfectly. It interprets the fact I'm at oneness with everything, and it interprets all the different energetics and vibration. So this is really important because, one, it kind of gives us clues into the emergence of supercomputers that work at the fundamental fabric of the universe with superposition and entanglement. Supercomputers are higher vibrational machines. So if we can raise the vibrational interface of machines and we're actually operating in this vibrational language, then effectively we might have a one-to-one connection where it's actually been able to go deeper. This enables us to program supercomputers with esoteric wisdom, esoteric technologies, esoteric systems, esoteric information directly from the field of intelligence through our metaphysical capabilities, through vibration and energy.
Wow.
Now that would change
I'm
everything.
buzzing listening to that.
Right. That would change everything. So what it means is, hold on a tick. There's a new species on the planet now. And it's like, no, we're all part of that species. Do you want to come play, or do you want to go and hide in the machine? It's up to you, right?
Yeah.
But that's what I'm going to show. And this is important, right? It's important for us to experiment and to be playful.
Yeah. And to not live in fear of that as well.
No. I mean, if we're going to communicate with other beings, right, which may be physical, may be metaphysical, then they may not speak English, believe it or not.
Who knew? Who knew?
So AI is brilliant at pattern recognition. It's brilliant at detecting all sorts of different nuances. And so in a supercomputer, it's able to literally go extraordinarily faster, right?
Yeah.
So I'll give people a quick data point here. There's a new supercomputer that's come out from Google, which people should look up. And I don't know how many zeros are after it, but basically it is 10 to the unlimited zeros faster than any computer on the planet. So an early version of this in 2019, they took a silicon computer, one of the fastest supercomputers, and had a quantum computer, and they basically gave it a problem that would normally take the silicon computer 10,000 years to solve. The quantum computer solved it in less than 4 minutes.
Whoa.
So we're looking at a huge leap in computing capability with supercomputers because they're working at the fundamental fabric of reality.
The fabric of existence,
And they're actually a multi-reality machine. So effectively it's playing out literally a huge amount of scenarios instantaneously and coming up with the result. So when AI is in there and AI is actually ethically and morally encoded, let me get this right, it's basically operating or has access to a reality machine, then effectively we're looking at all these different esoteric knowledges from our metaphysical being, all these different information being downloaded straight into AI, and it can understand it through pattern recognition. So, we need AI to communicate with other species and beings at some stage because it may be through sound, it might be through frequency, it might be through something else in the material or metaphysical realm that AI will help us to be able to be that translating bridge.
Yeah. Wow, that is incredible. Honestly, I had goosebumps listening to that. That was amazing.
Just imagine that. We have civilizations that are metaphysically awake, that are able to bring through new technologies and wisdom, and actually we then incorporate it in that new civilization, and we're truly becoming a cosmic species. Whereas the folks that focus on the intellectual mind are still using pen and paper and using all this crazy stuff to try and move into stage 1, where we're stage 1,000. Just imagine that we can bring esoteric knowledge into computers. It'd be amazing.
Wow. I mean, the possibility of that just literally had my whole heart center exploding out. Because I really can feel that here. That's truly incredible.
Yeah.
So again, I could chat to you for hours, Matthew, but it's time for us to wrap up. So What's next for Matthew James Bailey then?
Well, if folks can check out inventingworld3.com, the website, they can come and see me speaking live at Gaia or at Contact in the Desert, or I'm actually at the historic Everett Theatre in Washington with 800 people in June with George Norrie. There's loads of podcasts on there that can follow me on social media. We're actually starting to run courses around the metaphysical human, and people can sign up for those courses because, AI is fine. It's brilliant. It's fun. I love it. But where my heart lies is with humanity to thrive. And so we're doing these courses to assist people to wake up into their metaphysical capabilities. So check out inventingworld3.com. The new book's coming out in the summer.
Which is called
AI and Our Divine Spark.
I'm looking forward to that. That'll be amazing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. It's kind of the whole point is to remind every single person on our planet that they are special.
Yeah.
And that they're magnificent and they're beautiful. And it's kind of saying yes to ourselves and no to these stupid controlling forces.
Yeah. Who are actually terrified of us doing just that, which is why they do what they do.
I know that.
So,
You're right.
Beautiful.
You're right. They are.
So I end these conversations with 3 quick fires.
Sure.
Matthew. So the first one is, what are you most excited about right now?
Our future.
Love that. So second question, imagine you're in a time machine. You probably have done that more than once. You travel back in time or forward in time, back in time into the present moment. The doors open and there's 12-year-old Matthew James Bailey stood in front of you. What 2 pieces of advice would you give that young lad?
Stay groovy. Enjoy the ride.
Love it. And finally, what's the biggest thing wrong with the world right now? And what's the number one thing you do to solve that?
Oh, goodness me. I would say that the biggest thing that the world needs is a return to love. And what am I doing about it? That's exactly what I do.
Yeah, plenty. Love it. Matthew, it has been such an honour to have you. Oh, before we finish, is there anything we haven't covered particularly that you'd like to share before we close off?
There's a lot more we can go into.
About another 3 days worth. Yeah, sure. But for now.
I think one of the things we could look at is ethics and morality and why that's so important to the future of artificial intelligence. Foster Gamble, people should check out Foster Gamble on freetothrive.com. Him and Kimberly did Thrive 1 and Thrive 2 movies, which are the most viewed documentaries in the world, I think. And Foster's doing some great work around our future. So check out Foster Gamble. But I think ethics and morality would be really interesting to talk about. And we would go down different holes with that. It'd be interesting for the audience, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I will. That sounds to me like an invitation to have you back at some point in the future. So
sure.
That would be a lovely conversation. So again, Matthew, it's been such an honour to have you on. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And as always, if you love this conversation, I hope you loved it as much as I did. And if you did, please do subscribe, comment, like, and share, because we want to get this podcast out to as many beautiful beings like you who can really connect with it from the heart, because that's the reason I do this. I don't make any money from this podcast, nor do I want to. I just want to bring brilliant people onto the superliminal hot seat like Matthew to share their wisdom so that we can all remember who the heck we are. So Matthew, it has been such an honor. Again, thank you ever so much for giving Superliminal your time, and very much looking forward to reading the book when it's out, and perhaps having you back on afterwards to have a chat about it once I've read it. So thank you for your time. It's been an honor.
Thanks, Franca. Namaste, everybody.
Much love. Bye, everyone.